Hi, I'm Lahiro Fernando. I'm a UiPath MVP, a community leader, and a solution architect. In today's video, we'll be discussing about the UiPath Diagnostic Tool. Why do we need a diagnostic tool? And why do we check for errors? There are scenarios where we come across different system errors due to installation issues or issues when connecting the UiPath Studio with the orchestrator or the robot with the orchestrator, and even sometimes errors specific to different projects that we are working on. And to identify such errors and get the technical support that's needed, we might need to extract the log files related to Studio or the execution, and log files related to the project registry values that we need to look at, and the environment variables, process information, licensing, basically a lot of information that's needed, because for them to troubleshoot, they need to understand how our environment is set up. So how can we extract this information easily is through the diagnostic tool. UiPath offers a diagnostic tool which is a standalone utility which you can actually download and install through the cloud platform. So in this cloud platform, if you go into resource center under other products, you can easily find the diagnostic tool which you can download and install. However, this tool is also automatically installed while you're installing the community edition. So you can access that through the start menu by typing diagnostic. So this tool looks similar to what you see on the screen now. Basically, we have to go through 4 simple steps to extract the information we need. So when we are talking about the diagnostic, like data extraction of those log files of the environment and so on, we are looking at 4 different profiles. First one is the studio robot activities issue. So this option always looks at the studio robot or the activity related issues. Basically, it's mainly focusing on the log files created by the studio and by the execution logs. The next option, the orchestrator issue, is looking at gathering information about your connection to the orchestrator. So each of these two profiles comes with specific data collection options, which we'll look at in a little while. This empty profile option which we have is to customize our profile based on the data that we need to extract according to our requirement. And then last option is specific to a project. So what you can do is you can select the project JSON file of the project that you need to extract the logs or the error information. You can specify the project JSON file and extract the information related to that particular project. So let's check one by one. If we select the studio robot and activities and click on next, it will go to the configuration option. So over here you're looking at different collection methods. The first one, registry info, it will basically extract the registry keys used as well as the values assigned to each and every key. Screen information will extract the information about the displays you are using in the machine. So basically, if you have multiple displays, it will include all that information along with the resolution and some other information which we can look at in a little while. And it will also include the logs created by applications and as well as by the system. So by default, application is the option that's selected. And it will also extract the computer related information and the environment variables, log files, process information. So these are referring to the system process. And if there are any other third-party application that's being used, those will be uh, extracted in this one. And if you have any other UiPath related installations, basically UiPath products installed, that information will be also extracted. The next option is the licenses. So it will basically extract the license that you are using. And finally, you will have if the settings file if you are using any. Apart from that, you can also include any other information that's needed for your extraction. And once you have selected everything that you need, you can click on the collect button. This will extract the information and it will give you a preview so that you can look at the sample data that's being extracted. So let's give it a couple of seconds to extract the information. Right, so for registry information, it has extracted some values related to the UiPath robot, studio, and the activities. So it's by default showing only 3, but you can always click on this area so that you can look at all the values that it's extracting. And scrolling down, in my machine I have 2 displays, so that's why it's showing the displays that I'm already using. So in here we specified we need application logs, and here it's extracting that information into a different file in a .evtx format. And this is my computer information along with the operating system, the version, the current desktop, and the administrator login. And if I'm using any global proxy, that will be mentioned here. Apart from that, if I'm using a remote session, that will be captured as well. And the next one is the environment variables. So in here you can actually check what kind of environment variables I'm using related to UiPath, robot, and studio. And when it comes to log files, it will basically extract all the execution logs and the log files created by the studio. And you can see here that it's extracting information from 141 execution logs and 264 studio logs. You can also click on these links so that it will open another window where you can actually select and open this particular file. And if not, if you think that you don't need this information for your diagnostic, you can deselect them by simply clicking on this checkbox. So I will enable that for now and click OK. And similarly, you can see the same screen for studio logs. And scrolling down, we have if we have any other combined logs, those will be included here as well, and that will be shown in a different window. Next is the process related information. So it will basically show the processes that are already running. And scrolling down again, we'll be looking at the .NET framework, the default browser we are using, and if there are any other browsers that we have installed and used, those information will be stored here as well. And the antivirus software is also mentioned because sometimes the antivirus software is blocking certain services from executing. So it's always good to know what kind of antivirus software that we are using. Apart from that, if we are using any other software, all that information is captured. And the next one is the UiPath installers. So if we are using different software provided by UiPath, all that information is captured here along with the version and the installation path. Next one is the license. It will basically include the license information. And finally, if you have a settings file, that information will be shown here. Since I'm using the community version, I have the community settings in this particular location. So you can always access that by just clicking on the link provided. And there are a few other information like Studio 2 settings, the NuGet configurations, and also if there are any other installation configuration that needs to be done, all that will be mentioned. And finally, the connection to your orchestrator. That information will also be provided. And finally, to extract this information, what you can do is you can just click on next and it will show you the summary of what information is being extracted. And once you click on export, it will extract that information into a zip file and save it in a specific location. So let me save it in my downloads. Okay. So while we look at that extracted information little later, let's explore the other options. In the orchestrator issue, you can see that the number of collections are a bit different. So it's collecting information related to that specific profile. Basically the information needed to identify how the connection is being made between the orchestrator and the robot or the computer. So if you have the orchestrator installed, that information will also be mentioned here. And when it comes to the empty profile, you can decide what information that you need to extract. You just simply need to select the information that you need and it will have the same screen as you saw earlier, and that information will be extracted. So if I select these three and click on collect, let's give it a couple of seconds. Yeah, you are seeing the same screen as we saw earlier. All that information is captured and will be shown here. So let's get back. And the final option is extraction of the diagnostic data based on a specific project. So all you need to do is select a specific project, a JSON file, and go through the same set of options. So now, since we have looked at the diagnostic tool, let's see what kind of data it extracted. So I'll be extracting this information. So basically it has a lot of data. Yeah, so the extracted data will look something similar to what you are seeing on screen now. So the data collectors JSON file will contain the information related to the collectors and the results. Basically the same information we saw in that diagnostic tool. So all that information will be listed here. And in the settings file, it will include all the settings files that was shown through the diagnostic tool. In the log files, we will have all the execution logs, the logs related to the studio, and any other logs that are included. Finally, the application logs will include all the application event logs that's extracted from your computer event logs. So once you have extracted all this information, you can pass that data to the technical support team so that they can go through your logs and other information and do the troubleshooting to easily identify the issue and rectify it. So that's the end of the tutorial on the diagnostic tool. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.